Hey everybody, we are live. Welcome to another edition of Boston Straight Shooters. I'm your host for this evening, Steve, aka Negative Ned. Frank is away on business, so doing my best to hold everything down and get everybody caught up to speed. This is the show where we talk about the Patriots, Bruins, Celtics, and Red Sox. Go through the past week's goings on with the local teams, and we got a lot to talk about. So let's get started. Let me see if I can post a link for you guys so you can join the show. We are going to start with the Bruins. Let me make sure I can get this to work right. Hold on. I can't wait till Frank is back so we can make this easier because right now, this is pan that took us. Let me see what this does. All right, sorry about that. Let's get started. The Bruins last week played 3 games. They won all 3. So they're on a 3-game winning streak. Good wins. Old friend Jim Montgomery came here to the Fleet Center, and the Bruins pasted them 5-2. The Bruins did give up a lot of scoring chances, but Jeremy Swayman was sharp. He stopped 37 out of 39 shots, and he's definitely much better than he was last year. Last year, I dogged him, rightfully so, because he was playing like a $8 goalie instead of an $8 million goalie. He was killing us. So it's good to see him back on track. And he's played well over the last couple of weeks. I think I saw he's like 6-2 with like a 2.05 goals against average. That's fantastic. If they're going to go anywhere this year, they definitely need that. He needs to steal a few games. He did steal a game here and there over the last week or two. So really encouraging. They're getting secondary scoring. Steves has been on a heater for about 5 or 6 games. He's got 4 goals, I think, in that span. They're getting Pavel Zacha 2 goals in that game against the Blues. And actually, I apologize. It was Korpisalo who stopped 37 out of 39 in that game. And he's played better of late the last couple games too. Excuse me. So, it's key for them to get good goaltending and kind of bail them out because they've been giving up a lot of chances and they've been getting outshot. And I don't remember what the shots on goal were in this game, but 39 shots on goal. And a lot of these games, the Bruins have been getting 18, 21, and getting outshot by a 2-1 margin. And still finding ways to win. So kudos to them. Arvidsson had a goal. Geeky had another goal. For the Morgan Geeky fans out there, I think he's second in goals with 22 now in the season. He's picked up where he left off. Actually, he's ahead of last year's pace by almost double. So it's encouraging as well that he's lighting the lamp like that. They had David Pastrnak was out for a few games with a lower body injury. He came back last night. We'll get into that when we review that game. And the Blues are having issues. I think that one of the issues they're having is their goaltending hasn't been very good. Jordan Binnington, who I was worried about coming in here last week, really didn't play that well against the Bruins in this game. And he had gotten pulled a couple games before that. Him and Montgomery had a little bit of a blow up. They met and swept it under the rug or whatever, kissed and made up. But I was worried about them coming in here. They're not doing very well. I think they're in second to last place in their division. And from the little bit that I've heard going around. There's the fans there calling for his head already. I think that's a little unfair for him, given what he did for them last year. Last year they weren't a playoff team. He came in, made them a playoff team. I don't know what other issues they have besides the goaltending not being good enough, but I don't think they should fire him now. I think it's too soon for that. But anyway, uh, the Bruins have been doing a good job. I got to tip my cap. They've been getting it done. I think they're in third place behind Detroit, and I think it's Tampa. And I think I think it's like 38 points, and Detroit has 36, and so do the Bruins. But the Bruins have played one more game, so that puts them in third. But if the playoffs started right now today, they would be in the playoffs. 31 games into the season, which is nowhere near where I thought they were going to be. I see you, Danny. Hang tight for a second. We're going to get to that. That next game against New Jersey. These games are always close. It's always like 2-1 in overtime, or 3-2 in a shootout, or some nonsense. And that's really what I was expecting from New Jersey. But they're missing Jack Hughes, their best player, and it shows for them. They are getting better goaltending this year than they've had in the past. But anytime you're missing your best guy, it's a recipe for disaster for them. They started the season like 12-3 or something like that, and right now I think they're like 17-13 or whatever. Like they've slipped, and they're like, if the playoffs started today, they wouldn't make it. So they were in first place for a while, and now they'd be on the outside looking in. But a good win for the Bruins, 4-1. Totally unexpected on my end. That game, Swayman was good, 29 saves on 30 shots. Geeky scored again. Guys just out of control. But they got contributions from Middlestat and Fraser Minton, who's on the third line. He's the young kid that they got in the Brandon Carlo trade. He's been really good as the third line center. And man, can he snipe. He's got a shot. So it's good to see him contributing and getting rewarded for his efforts. I want to say the Bruins outshot them in that game. Typical hard-fought battle up and down. The Bruins, they are giving up a lot of shots, and they're giving up a lot, some odd man rushes here and there. But I think overall the defense has been better than it was last year for sure, because last year they just looked so disjointed and out of place. I also think that having Zadorov on the first pairing is better. He's done a better job kind of staying in his own lane and not trying to run around, going all over the place trying to help everybody. And the physicality can't be overlooked. At the very beginning of the year, we were calling him Baby Z around here for baby, Zdeno Chara. And, he didn't really want to hear that, but, dude's 6'6", 240. He's a freight train, that guy. And I'm glad because, again, the Bruins were getting pushed around. That's a guy that I wanted. He did not have a good year last year, but I think this year it's a complete 180 for him. And I give him a lot of credit. And I give the coaching staff credit for making the system to fit so that he fits good, and everybody's fitting good. So we'll get to that in a minute too. I do want to recap the other St. Louis game. The Bruins had to go to St. Louis for their first of 3 games that they were on a road trip for, a mini road trip. They beat the Blues again 5-2 in their own building. Fraser Minton had 2 goals. Mark Kastelik had 2 goals, and Zacha had another goal. And David Pastrnak came back. And to my surprise, and probably everybody's surprise, Marco Sturm decided to put him on the third line with Fraser Minton. And Hustadinov. And, Frazier Minton, 2 goals. Pasternak had 3 assists. Sturm opted to keep the first 2 lines together the way they were with Steves and Geeky and Lindholm clicking, and Zach and Middlestat and Arvidsson clicking. So I'm glad he did that. At the very beginning of the year, I was mad because they, had all these muckers and grinders on the third line and fourth line and not enough scoring, and I know the injuries are playing a piece in this with Steve's getting a chance, but he should have been here from the beginning. And he would have been on the third line minimum with Frazier Minton, in my opinion. But nonetheless, and then on the fourth line, he put Corrali, Jeannot, and Kastelik together, and that's I hate to say this, but it reminds me of like goon fourth line from the 70s and 80s when you would have all the tough guys on one line just beating the crap out of everybody. And I liked it. I think those guys played well. I mean, Kastelik got 2 goals, and those guys, for as much as I dog them for being muckers and grinders, they bring energy. They're playing hard. They skate hard. They finish their checks. And, what Don Sweeney and Cam Neely was saying at the very beginning of the year where, we don't want to be an easy team to play against. These guys are providing that. So I have to give them, the players, credit, and I'll give Marco Sturm credit because I think he's gotten more out of this group than what most coaches could probably get. So, Danny, as you point out, shout out for Kastelik, and as Danny says on the puck drop, Kastelik dropped the gloves. So they're playing Winnipeg right now, and apparently he's out there to start the game, and the fisticuffs started right away. And I love that. I think that's good for the Bruins. It just shows that they're not messing around. They're not going to take any crap. I like it. I get into it a little bit with Tim Anderson, who's part of our group, because I want to see the old school, fisticuffs, and he just keeps reminding me that the game isn't like that anymore, and it's more about skill and speed. But I think that the Bruins tried that, and it didn't work out for them. When you have teams pushing them around like Florida regularly, other teams are going to start doing it too. I've noticed Ottawa, those games are tight, and they kind of push the Bruins around a little bit. So you have to have that. You have to have some of that and match it. You can't just keep letting them punch you in the face and don't hit back. That's my whole argument with that. And I'm not saying spend the whole game in the box either and be stupid about it. And that is a bugaboo for the Bruins. They are taking a lot of penalties. They're near the bottom of the league as far as penalties. And when I say bottom, I mean like as in having the most. So it's not good. They got to find a way to minimize the penalties. The penalty kill has been good, luckily. I want to say they're right around 80%-ish. But, I don't think that's sustainable. So they got to find a way to clean that up a little bit. And again, the power play has been decent, pretty good, I would say. They're probably right, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I would say they're somewhere between like 20 and 23%. So they might be like 12th or 14th, something like that. And that's way better than last year. Last year they were near the bottom. I think their power play was like 15% last year or whatever. They were horrible. So, they're doing a better job. They're mixing in some of the young guys. They're being physical. They're finishing their checks. And they're doing a good job. So, I have to give them credit. Winnipeg tonight is missing 3-time Vezina winner in net, Connor Hellebuck. He's actually won the Vezina Trophy the last 2 years in a row. And he had knee surgery on November 24th, and he was expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. So the Bruins kind of catch a break, not having to face him. They are 500 right now. They were one of the top teams last year. They were either the top team or second or whatever. Um, and so I would not expect tonight to be an easy game for the Bruins just because they're desperate for W's. So they don't fall too far out of the race, and they're home, so that's an advantage for them. And update from Danny: 1-0 Jets. I think last week I wrote this as a loss on the predictions, so we'll have to wait and see how that comes out. But listen, they got a tough stretch coming up. Uh, you know, starting on Sunday, they're playing Minnesota Sunday. Then they have a 5-game homestand, and they basically play 6 games in 10 days between, uh, you know, today and next Sunday. Uh, that's a gauntlet. They got Utah, Edmonton, Vancouver, Ottawa, and Montreal, and a lot of those games are all within like a day of each other. I think the Ottawa and Montreal games are back to back. I think those are Saturday and Sunday. So that's a tough stretch. So they're going to have their work cut out for them. Again, I'm going to keep sounding like a broken record. The condensed schedule because of the Olympics is going to kill a lot of teams. And again, I just looked at the standings again. Everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's right around 500. The standings is like, one day the Bruins are in second place, the next day they're in sixth. That's how tight it is amongst all the teams in both conferences, with the exception of Colorado, Dallas, and probably Anaheim in the West. Those are the 3 best teams in the West right now. They are the only 3 teams that basically have like sizable cushions. Colorado and Dallas are in the same division. Dallas is 2 points behind Colorado, and Anaheim's in their division, leading their division by a pretty decent margin. So, but in the East, the Bruins division has like Tampa, Detroit, the Bruins, Ottawa, Montreal. All those teams are all flip-flopping each other. And surprisingly, Florida is not in the mix yet. They're probably right around 500. They're struggling without Reinhart, who they lost to ACL injury at the very beginning of the year. So, I don't expect them to just roll over. I mean, I expect them to be in the mix at some point too. So, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And Brad Marchand, I think, if he's not leading them in scoring, he's second or something like that. He's got 15 goals already. He's kind of going nuts. But, I just have to, listen, I'm wrong a lot on here. I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. And so far I've been wrong about the Bruins, and we'll see how it goes the rest of the way. But they've been playing hard. They've been playing, I would say, kind of Bruins hockey. More like what we expect to see from them: skate hard, finish your checks, and they're getting contributions from everybody. They need that. They're not going to be able to rely just on Pastrnak and Kiki to win games. You're going to need Middlestat to score. You're going to need Arvidsson to score. And I looked at the numbers before we came on. Elias Lindholm has 18 points in 21 games that he's played. So, that's a far cry from where he was last year. I think he had 7 points in the first 20-something games or whatever. He was terrible last year, but he was playing hurt. He had a back injury. Again, nobody wants to hear the excuses, but I just say when the guy's on 100%, it makes a difference, and it's tough on them. All right, watching the time. Let's move along. Let's talk about the. Let's talk about the Patriots. Patriots were off this week. They have the Bills coming up. The Bills are coming off a win over the Cincinnati Bengals. I watched that whole game, mostly because it was a snow game. It was snowing there. I love those games. It was fun to watch. I mean, Joe Burrow brought it in the first half. He was unbelievable. He was on fire. The Bengals actually had a lead, and for as good as Joe Burrow was in the first half, the second half he just I don't know what happened, but he went to throw a pass and lob it over the defender to the running back, and he didn't lob it high enough, and the guy jumped in the air, picked off, ran it back for a pick six. I was like, oh, come on, dude. Right? Because I really wanted Buffalo to lose because then the Patriots would have a 3-game lead with Buffalo coming in here. And if the Patriots were to lose, then it wouldn't be as big of a hit, right? So that happens. And then the next series, when they get the ball back, he throws a pass, it gets batted in the air, and it gets picked off. I'm like, they can't catch a break. The Bungles are at it again. And Burrow's good. I like him. But between that and Josh Allen running for, a 40-yard touchdown, a 30-yard touchdown, whatever the hell that was he did, using his legs to get away. When he's doing that, you got no chance. If he throws for 2 touchdowns and runs for a touchdown and runs for big runs like 15, 18 yards, he had another run for like 15 or 16 yards late in the game to seal the deal. You can't let him run around like that, like he's running around the playground. That's going to be a problem this week. So, the Patriots won the first matchup. They had Milton Williams in that game, who's out with a high ankle sprain. The Patriots, since he's been out, have had difficulty against the run. The first 9 games, they had not allowed 100 yards. And ever since then, it's been more difficult. So, they get their work cut out from between James Cook and, Josh Allen. If those guys are running all over the place, the Patriots are dead. They can't let Cook get 100 yards. They can't let him break off, 8, 10-yard runs. They have to find a way to bottle him up, and they have to find a way to contain Josh Allen. It's the same argument we have with all the running quarterbacks, right? How do you stop them? You don't stop them, but you can kind of try to contain them and make them beat you with their arm, which means they're going to have to play more one-on-one and hope that those matchups are favorable and, that the Patriots secondary doesn't get beat for big plays. And that's definitely a concern because the Patriots pass rush, they're not getting to the quarterback as much as they should. And it's not a new problem for them. Excuse me. This has been a problem for a while. So we'll have to see what they can do. I mean, I'll just say, this is probably a little premature, but, keys to the game, contain Josh Allen. You can't allow Cook to go off. And the Patriots definitely need to be much better in the red zone. They're near the bottom of the league in the red zone. And you can't do that against good teams like this. You're only going to get so many chances. You have to cash in. And look, I went cuckoo last week, and I caught a little bit of grief for the way that they went for it on 3rd and 4th down, didn't kick the field goal. But I still say you got to put the points on the board. I mean, if you've had 6 tries or 7 tries, and it's the 8th try on 4th down, sorry, just kick the stupid field goal and get it over with. Unless you're behind by 2 touchdowns or whatever, or 10 points and it's late in the game. I mean, there's a time and a place. You have a chance to kick a field goal and put some distance between you and your opponent. And they had a chance to go up by 9 against Cincinnati and didn't take advantage of it. So shame on them. That's what I'm talking about. You won't get, in my opinion, the same second chance opportunities against good teams like Buffalo. So this is like a real test now, right? These games they have coming up, Buffalo and Baltimore next week, which actually got flexed from a 1 o'clock start to Sunday Night Football. So that game's in Baltimore. That game got moved. So that's a night game now. Uh, on one hand, I'm not happy about that because that means I have to stay up later and hope I don't fall asleep so I can watch the whole thing. Uh, on a good note, that means that you know the Patriots are back in a sense that they're a draw now for national TV because they're in the playoff hunt. And Baltimore, the stakes are high for them because they are 6-7, I think. So they're on the outside looking in. So it's a desperate game for them. So not to get too far ahead, but these next two games are really good tests for the Patriots. It would be fantastic if the Patriots could get a W this week. And, if they do, they win the AFC East. It's the first time they will have won the AFC East since 2019 when Tom Brady was here. I think that would be a real nice feather in Drake May's cap and Mike Vrabel just to get the monkey off the back. And there was some scuttlebutt made last week during the bye week about some comments that Mike Vrabel made about, championship this and championship that, and it's a hat and t-shirt game. People kind of overblew it. I don't have a problem with the comments he made. He's trying to get his team to understand that, hey, this is what we're playing for. This is what we started out at the beginning of the season. Regardless of what me or anybody else says about how many wins they were going to get. And I know for a fact, Frank is itching to get on here to bust my chops because I stayed with the 8-9 wins, and he had them at 11 and 12 early on, if anybody remembers, way back, and I just didn't see it. And he was correct. The schedule is easy. The problem with the schedule being easy at the time is the Patriots were not good enough to take advantage. They were making mistakes even against the quote-unquote easy teams, and it was costing them games that they should have been winning. And we went through the whole thing last year. They should have won this game, they should have won that game, and this and that. But so they are now winning those games against the easy teams, or tomato cans, as we refer to them around here. And so, listen, I think every year they have tomato cans on their schedule. And even when Tom Brady was here for 20 years, every time they would beat the Jets or Miami or some other bum teams, they play another tomato can. They play another tomato. But they played good teams too, and they won all the games. And so part of being a good team is beating the teams you should beat. So as far as them having an easy schedule, at the beginning of the season, it might look easy on paper, but you have to execute and win the game. Too many games we saw where they were beating themselves, and they've cleaned it up a lot. And the Vrabel and the rest of the coaching staff all deserve a tremendous amount of credit for cleaning it up and, getting these guys on the same page and getting them to, not make the same mistakes that they've been making over the last probably 3 or 4 years total. I don't want to say just last year with Gerard Mayo, but they were making those mistakes under Belichick 2 years ago when they won 4 games. I mean, they just have not been good for 2 years minimum. And I'm not going to revisit history, but for every one of the games we went through last year where they gave it away, this year they're not giving them away. So that's the difference. The difference is they're beating teams. And this is true for every sport. You can go back to, people don't like to cross sports, but I'll go back to the Bruins, a number of years ago. They were losing to teams they shouldn't lose to, but they were beating the good teams. And so, okay, what do they look like? What are they? Right? Are they for real because they're beating the good teams? are they hoax because they're losing to the bad teams. They're losing to the teams they should beat. And I think part of that is when you're playing teams that are bad, or you're playing tomato cans, or whatever you want to call them. I just think that sometimes you can take them lightly, and your intensity level isn't the same as it would be. Uh, you know, you can use Cleveland, you can use Cincinnati, you can use whatever you want. Uh, if you're the Patriots, uh, New Orleans, or whatever, and then look at Buffalo and be like, okay, or even the Giants, they were a bad team, uh, right? They're a bad team 2 weeks ago, but you know the Patriots did not take them lightly. Thankfully, uh, they came out swinging. Both teams did. I give them both credit. Uh, you know, I can't stand the Giants, obviously, being a Patriots fan. But I give them credit for playing hard. They came to play Monday Night Football. Everybody's tuned up, and the Patriots, to me, in that game, made a statement that okay, we're going to take care of business against the teams we should take care of business against. So, uh, you know, the Patriots, they look, and I hate to say this because I don't want to be a jinx, but they look a lot like they did when they were winning. They have the bend but don't break in the except the red zone defense has not been as good this year. They are giving up a lot of points, touchdowns, whatever. But they're also finding ways to make key stops, which they weren't doing last year either. They couldn't stop anybody on third down. They couldn't make stops when they needed them. This year they're giving up some plays, but they're making stops when they need to and forcing the teams to punt. They're playing better. The special teams has been better. I mentioned that last week when we were on. Special teams, has been bad. I mean, they've just been taking too many penalties up the wazoo and giving up touchdowns and giving up yards. I mean, just awful. Again, a complete 180. Credit to everybody for helping to flip that around. And so, look, this is a good matchup this week for the Patriots. It's a good test for them. If you anybody that knows me knows I like wrestling, and the Bills are the AFC East champs, and so in order to beat the man, you got to beat the man. That's the way it is. This is a great time for the Patriots to make a statement and say, okay, you guys are done. We're taking over, and put the squash on them and see what you can do. I mean, I think that some things have to go right for the Patriots. They have to be able to run the ball. They have a habit of running it in the middle into the pile. I don't get some of the runs. It just looks like they're just like, okay, they put their head down and they just run into the pile. I don't get it. So I want to see a little creativity. I want to see something different from them because they're going to need a strong running game as the season winds down going into the playoffs. And we talk about it all the time. You don't want to be one-dimensional, and you don't want to put it all on Drake May, even though he's having a phenomenal year. This is across the league too, so it's not just a Drake May issue, but it's across the league. When the teams become one-dimensional, if you're running the ball 10 times after 450, that's not good. That's a recipe for disaster. And you can look at any team that plays, and I'll use the Ravens and the Colts, two teams that have great running backs. When those guys get bottled up, and actually Philadelphia too, Saquon Barkley's not having the same year he had last year. Last year, 2,000 yards. This year, I mean, he's just not. They're not doing anything. So, the ground game has to be balanced, and I'm really hoping that after this bye week, Travion Henderson, the breakaway speed and stuff that we saw in the preseason, I'm hoping we get to see some of that coming up. As we mentioned earlier, he's a game breaker. Marcus Jones is a game breaker in the return game. So, you know, other teams have guys like this, and it's nice that the Patriots finally have a couple of these kind of guys. So, uh, you know, listen, this is not going to be an easy game. Last year, when Buffalo came here in the last week of the season, they basically rolled over. They were trying to not get anybody hurt. They had first round bye or playoffs or whatever they had. It's different now. They're going to be playing hard. I don't believe they're going to be taking a day off. They know what's going on, and they don't want to fall out of a playoff spot either, because it's tight, and it's tight in both conferences. It's almost like hockey. It's a log jam. One week you're in the wild card and you lose, and there's a team behind you and they leapfrog you, and there's a whole bunch of leapfrogging going on. And so Buffalo is going to be looking at it like they can't afford to be in that spot where they have to compete and leapfrog back and forth over a bunch of teams to try to get in the playoffs. So I expect a much better game from them this time around. The Patriots still have to get good offensive line play. They have to be able to run the ball. They have to be able to, have some drives. Too many 3-and-outs are going to kill them. They need one or two long. This is the same thing we talk about again. Keep the ball when Brady was playing. Keep the ball out of Peyton Manning's hands. Get a 12-play, 8-minute drive. The Patriots, they need that. They need that. This offense needs to have one or two of those drives in the minimum in this game. And keep Josh Allen on the sideline so that he doesn't burn you and you don't fall behind. They definitely can't fall behind by 2 touchdowns in this game, or and I don't expect that. I expect it to be a tight game, like the rest of them. I think the Bills were favored by 1.5 points. Yesterday, the day before, I guess now it's flipped back. The Patriots are favored. People can't make up their minds. But I know that the Patriots will use it as fuel, like they always do when they're underdogs. I see them using that as a as motivation to have a good week. So, we'll see what happens. I think it's definitely a winnable game. I just think that everything has to go right. They can't have turnovers. They can't have penalties. They can't go back to what they were doing last year if they want a chance. And I don't expect it to, because, like I said, these guys, I think it's different. It's the coaching. It's the camaraderie, the chemistry, whatever you want to call it, is better too. I've heard the players mention about that. So, listen, let's go. I'm ready for this game. And actually, the Bills, I'm curious to see how much of the Bills Mafia is going to travel here and, jump through a table or whatever. I think that's hysterical that they do that. That ought to be a trip. But, well, we'll see. Let's move on. Let's move on to the Celtics. The Celtics are on a hot streak. They've won 5 in a row. So their record is 15-9. They started the season 0-3. They're 15-6 in their last 21 games. They won 5 in a row. And they are so. So I got a little confused before. They are third in the conference. They're second in the division. And so if you follow us, I had made a post with the Celtics, second place, put the standings up. And Frank was like, they're third. And I'm like, yeah, third in the conference. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I want to see them win the division still. And that could still be in reach, believe it or not. listen, they've played well. Uh, I got to give Joe Mazzulla credit. Uh, Early on in the year, they looked like crap. We dumped on them. They looked out of joint, out of sync. Something looked off, bad. You know, we were like the matchups, this and the lineups and the combinations and the 3 point shooting's terrible and the rebounding's bad. But listen, over the last probably 2 3 weeks, uh, they've played a lot better. Derek White looks more like himself a little bit now. Pritchett looks better. Jaylen Brown has played like uh, a number one guy. Uh, he's done all the right things. Um, he's been leading the team in scoring. He's getting rebounds. He's getting assists. Um, he got Player of the Week for this past week. Averaged 34 points a game with just about 7 rebounds and 6 assists per game. So I'm sure we touched on it before the season started. Could he be the guy without Tatum? This is his opportunity. He's seizing the opportunity, and I'm sure he doesn't. He probably looks at it like, okay, well, I've always played like a top guy. This is not new for me. Um, and he mentioned, when they won the championship, that you have to sacrifice a little bit for the betterment of the team. He did that, so he's a wicked smart guy. And there was a time where people wanted to run him out of town. I don't think anybody should be so quick now to do that. He's really done a good job, and they just look better. They annihilated the Washington Wizards last week, 146-101. That was without Jaylen Brown. He was out with an illness. That game wasn't even close. The Celtics, again, Derek White, 30 points, carried the load. Jordan Walsh, 22 points. Pritchett, 20. Simon, 16. Hugo Gonzalez, 14 points in 17 minutes. Listen, I know I dogged him earlier and called him Hugo Chavez or whatever, but listen, he's been a little bit of a pleasant surprise. He won't let up the score sheet like this a lot, but he hustles. He hustles on defense. He plays hard, and again, as a guy, he's doing the right things. He has mistakes. He has moments. He's not perfect, but when they drafted him, I was mad because there were 2 centers on the board that I wanted them to take, and they overlooked them both and took this guy. But after watching him play, I gotta give some credit. Again, he's a good bench player. He's 19 years old or whatever he is. He's learning, so he's not going to be perfect, but he's been pretty good. I got to give him some credit. And Jordan Walsh, 22 points. At first when Mazzulla put him in the starting lineup, I was like, dude, what the hell are you doing? What are you putting him in there for? But after watching him, you want to talk about high energy, hustle, tough defender. He comes to play. So again, Frank is the basketball expert here. I am not. So I am pleasantly surprised with Jordan Walsh. I like the fit now after watching, these games where he's out there, and he's out there against good guys too. He's not just playing stiffs. So kudos to them. They've been doing a much better job. Again, I think the offensive rebounds that they're giving up is a little bit of a concern. Excuse me. The offensive rebounds they give up is a little bit of a concern, but I think they're getting better at it. And earlier on. So I think the rotations too. I think Luca Gaza. Earlier on in the year, he would come in. He was getting like 12 points, 15 points, but whatever. But man, he's slow. He's just too slow. So he's going to have a limited role. And I think Josh Minot, if that's how you pronounce his name, I like him a lot. Now that's another guy. He's not going to light up the scoreboard every game, but there was a game out of one of these three games where he had like 11 points and some rebounds. Uh, one of the games I watched, he had a 3-pointer. Uh, I like him too. So, and I like him better than Gaza. So, I kind of hope he gets more run going forward. Uh, you know, Next game they played, they beat the Lakers 126-105. I was out, so I did not get to see the game, but I heard some of the post game and commentary. Uh, you know, no LeBron, he was out with a sciatic injury. Luka Doncic was not with the team because his wife had a baby, so they didn't have their full complement of guys. They also played the night before against Toronto in a game which I think they won, and so they're playing back-to-back games coming in here. Probably figured it's a quote unquote maintenance day, and so luckily for the Celtics, they took advantage of that. Jaylen Brown 30 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. Derek White 19 points, Jordan Walsh 17, 4 or 5 from 3. Real good game. They shot 24 of 45 from 3, 53%. That's insane. But I think it's a disgrace. And so I get the streaming crap. I've been all over it. Can't stand it. That game was on Amazon Prime, right? Uh, as one of the marquee games for that network. But the game ended up being a complete dud from my perspective and many others, because that's a game that's supposed to be like Celtics Lakers Sunday afternoon, big matchup. The best players are playing. And the league scheduled LA to have back-to-back games. And I think the Celtics did too. I think they played Washington the night before or whatever. So that's a shame on the schedule maker. Whoever the hell did that, you're fired. Never ever do that. Never ever schedule Celtics and Lakers games for them to play a back-to-back when they have a game coming up. Give those guys 2 days off in between and put them on a Sunday. So give them a Thursday night game, then give them 2 days off, then put them on Sunday. Or if you do that Friday night thing with Amazon, then they got 2 games off. Have them play on Tuesday. But don't ever do that again. That's so stupid. I can't stand when the schedule is all jacked up like that. I hate it. It's very frustrating. And, on Frank's show, Box Seats, those guys over there touched on it with the maintenance stuff because crap, I forget the team that got fined. They got fined for resting one of their top guys. I forget when it was or who it was. They had a stretch of games where they had like, they played a game, then the player took a game off and then played 2 nights later. Whatever. So listen, that whole issue too. People are paying top money to see LeBron and Luka in the Garden, and they got gypped of that, and they have this new thing now where they have like I forget what it's called. Where they have special pricing, not tiered pricing. It'll come to me at some point, but if you're playing the Lakers, it's more money. If you're playing the Wizards, it's less. So let's say a ticket to the Lakers is $150, and a ticket to the Wizards is like $50. You know what I'm saying? So you're paying extra. The Red Sox are doing this now. They're charging more money for Yankees games and charging less for like Tampa Bay, right? So you go to the Yankees game, it's $150. You go to Tampa, it's 30. That kind of stuff. And so when the best players are coming here, you want to see the best. You're paying that money. You want to see the best players. That's unfair. Uh, it's unfair to the fans. The fans are the ones that ultimately lose, and I think that's disgusting. And I think they need to find a way to fix it going forward. And all sports should be aware of that. You know, hockey should be aware of that too. You know, that's another thing that really the guys in hockey don't take maintenance days. The Bruins have, 4 games in 6 days or whatever coming up. Unless the guy has an injury, they're all going to play every game. It's brutal, and that game is more contact sport than basketball. And don't come at me with basketball is physical. Listen, you ain't on skates at 30 miles an hour checking somebody into the boards in basketball. Sorry, so don't even try to compare them. But nonetheless, when the schedule makers do their thing, they got to rectify these issues, especially when people are paying top dollar. You're robbing the fans, and you're not putting out the best product. And look, I'm happy the Celtics pasted them, but you want to see a good game. Last game the Celtics beat Toronto 121-113. They were up 77-59 at the half. They shot 20 of 47 from three, 43%. That needs to continue. That 11 of 51 nonsense can't continue. So they're doing a better job there. They did give up 11 offensive rebounds, but they got 14 of their own, so that's a good sign. They were much better on the glass that game. Neemias Quaid, 11 points, 11 rebounds. Again, a guy I like. And so the Celtics have Milwaukee tonight. Milwaukee's lost 10 of their last 12. They have no Giannis. He's out with an injury. So they should get a W tonight, hopefully, and keep the winning streak going. The 5-game winning streak the Celtics are on is the second longest winning streak in the league. And they have Milwaukee tonight, then they have Detroit Monday, and then they're off until back-to-back games Friday night and Saturday versus Miami and Toronto. So by the next time we come on, they will have only played 2 games. And Detroit, another good test. They beat them the last game, barely, snuck by, and they're playing well. So that's a game I'm looking forward to seeing. All right, before I run out of time, let's move on. Let's move on to the Red Sox real quick. I definitely have some things I want to get off my chest. The Red Sox went to the winter meetings. All the scuttlebutt and rumors and whatnot about them signing, a big bat. Craig Breslow said as much that they needed more pop in the lineup, and they were going to look to improve in that area. Bregman hasn't signed yet. He's a guy that they're definitely still interested in. But Pete Alonso. So before I get to the Pete Alonso, because he signed yesterday with the Baltimore Orioles, before I get to that, let's do a quick recap. Last week, the Red Sox traded for Sonny Gray from St. Louis, and the Cardinals ate $20 million of his salary. They had a $41 million salary, and they ate $20 million of it. So they're paying him $21 million. The Red Sox are. And at the time, when he was asked, Breslow, they were asked if he was going to be the number 2 guy. And he said, well, it's kind of early to be putting numbers on it and blah, blah. He said earlier that he wanted to make sure that they got a guy that was number 2 guy and pitched the playoffs last year. That's what Sonny Gray is. He's a number 2 guy last year on St. Louis, and he pitched a playoff game. That's not the expectation. The expectation is that they were going to sign a real number 2 ace guy and put Sonny Gray third. That's what I wanted them to do. And they're not going to do that. And then they went and traded for Johan Oviedo from the Pirates. They traded Yastingson Garcia. Sorry for butchering the pronunciation. His nickname is the Password. Outfield prospect. They traded him, and they got back minor league left-hander Tyler Semeniago and catcher Adonis Guzman. So again, this guy now, again, another guy coming back from Tommy John surgery. Oviedo had Tommy John surgery, missed all of 2024, came back last year. He got a lat injury, pushed him back to August. He made 9 starts. He pitched 40 innings. He had 42 strikeouts, 3.57 ERA. So that tells me that they're gonna flim it again, and they're gonna Ocean State job lot the back end of the rotation like they've been doing for the last I don't know how many years now, probably 5 years, with this using these guys in the 5th spot and having them pitch, relievers or whatever, have openers pitch 1 or 2 innings. And I'm so sick of this already. They don't want to pay anybody. They keep trying to go cheap. They also have Patrick Sandoval coming back this year from Tommy John surgery. They have Tanner Houck coming back from surgery. They have Carter Crawford coming back from a knee injury. So the back end is going to be, this is going to be, in my opinion right now, the way it looks is going to be Crochet, Sonny Gray, Bayo, Oviedo, 4th, and for 5th, it's going to be a combination of Patrick Sandoval, Carter Crawford, Tanner Houck, Peyton Tolley, and whoever else they can scrap up off the street. And it's not good enough. It's just not good enough. It's so frustrating. And on top of that, now they want to sign a big bat, and they lowball offered Pete Alonso. He signed for 5 years, $155 million with Baltimore, $31 million a year. What did the Red Sox do? The same thing they did to John Lester. 3 years, $85 million plus a 4th-year option for $35 million. It's disgusting. That's disgusting. That offer should have been 3 years, $150 million. First offer, right off the bat, $30 million. Listen, this is where I get mad at them for sure. So they had Giolito here last year in the number 2 spot, kind of, right? He made $19 million last year. They had Walker Buehler here who made $21 million. So to me, Walker Buehler's money went Sonny Gray. So that's a wash. You have Sandoval, who was on the books last year, taking one of the roster spots. So you got $19 million freed up from Giolito. You traded Devers and took $30 million off the books. You added Bregman and put $30 million back on. But that $30 million is not on. So you got 30 plus 19. You got $49 million minimum. Alonso should have been signed. Or then Bregman should be signed by now. I don't know what the hell he's waiting for. But they need him. And he's not the big bat that Breslow says they're going to get. We're still going to prioritize someone who can hit the middle of the order and kind of change the overall outlook of the offense. How? You keep trying to go for these cheap options. You're a bozo. And the gaslighting and the lying, I'm sick of it. I've been listening to this on sports radio for 2 days now. The fans are calling up pissed off, rightfully so. You are not – it's all gibberish. It's all mumbo-jumbo, junk, gaslighting between you and Sam Kennedy. And John Henry, last year, after you signed Bregman, you had the pose where you lit the cigar. You can take that cigar and turn it sideways and stick it where the sun don't shine. Okay? Because that's horse crap. Now they're forced to sign Bregman again. And I'll be honest, I didn't like the fact that he missed 6 weeks. You're going to sign him for another 5-6 years. He's going to miss 6 weeks every year now and pay him $30 million. That's what you're worried about. I don't get it. And again, I've mentioned this before. I don't know why the contracts aren't front loaded. Why do they put, $25 million up front the first, 3 years and then backload it and put $35 million when the guy's 38 years old? Front load the contract. Give him $40 million up front. First 2 years is $40 million. The last year is 20. So when he's washed up at 35 or 36 or whatever, and you want to eat salary, you're eating 20 and not 35, you dumb bozos. I don't understand that at all. I still haven't figured it out. We talked about this with Jeremy Swayman last year with his contract. But the Red Sox, Baltimore got better. Toronto got better. They signed a pitcher. They signed a bat. They're still waiting on Bo Bichette. The Yankees really didn't do much, but they're still the Yankees. They're still good. They got Garrett Cole coming back. They won the division without him. They won the division without their ace. Think about that for a second. Or they were second without him, right? Made the wild card. I mean, they're going to be better. I think the Red Sox are going to finish 4th or 5th this year. I see 4th or last again. You know, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They did not get the ace guy. And if I had to choose between getting the bat and getting the ace, the number 2 starter, I would choose the number 2 because pitching is what wins. The Red Sox are always going to score runs. They always average 5 runs a game. They're always in the top 5 in runs scored. Okay? It's the pitching that's killing them. So now we're going to have another season of, flotsam and jetsam, Ocean State job lot bums coming through the 4th and 5th spots in the rotation. And you better get ready for it. They let Criswell go. He was like the Swiss Army knife kind of guy. He could give you relief. He could give you a start here and there. I think Cutter Crawford's going to end up being that guy now because, they're going to need somebody to eat up innings when the starter only goes 2 or 3 innings. They're going to need a guy to come in and chew up 2 or 3 innings in a game. To me, that should be Cutter Crawford's role. Houck, I would put him in the pen. I don't think he's good. I don't think he's good enough to go through the rotation 3 times. And by the time he gets to the 3rd time, he's getting schwacked around. Put him in the bullpen. Scrub it. Stop shoving a square peg into a round hole. But I'm pissed off. And I'm just tired of them. They just lie and gaslight everybody. And I still have stupid John Henry's quote here from last year. Even if it takes us over the CBT, our priority is 90 to 95 wins. The goal is to win 90-plus games, not worry about wildcard spot. So you're not doing that. It's all lip service. It's all gibberish. It's all garbage. So, I know it's only December. It's not even Christmas yet. And I'm going to have a lot of time to rail on them. But this is so annoying. It's disingenuous. You're lying to the fan base. Again, I just talked about it with the basketball. You charge $150 to go watch a Yankees game, and you got, some Joe Schmo, Ocean State job lot bum as the opener in a game. Like, no, that's not good enough. So, nice accounting. Well, I did go to school for accounting. I didn't finish. But listen, they don't want to go over the CBT. They don't want to go over the luxury tax. I get it. And I know I'm over. So let me just get this out. I understand where John Henry's coming from to a point. What I hate is the teams that are at the bottom, the Miami Marlins, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Colorado Rockies, and those bums that benefit from the luxury tax and pocket the money and they don't reinvest it in the team. There should be a rule in place that says, hey, whatever money you get from the luxury tax, every penny has to go back into the team, into the talent. Period. End of story. If you don't do that, the fine is whatever amount you got. If you got $4 million and you only spent half on the players and you put the other half in your pocket, or you put none in the players and you put all of it in your pocket, the fine is $4 million. You got $4 million. If you spent $2 million and kept $2 million, your fine is still $4 million. F you. That's what I'd do. And the other thing is, I know that after next year, there's going to be a labor dispute. The owners are going to try and push for a hard salary cap. They definitely need something that's better what they have now. I don't like this salary cap, the luxury tax thing. I hate it. They're the only sport that doesn't have one that's kind of balanced out so that it's even for all the teams. And that's why you have, the Dodgers can spend $400 million, the Mets can spend $400 million, and, Pittsburgh spending $40 million. Like they need to balance it out somehow. So I understand where he's coming from. But to sit there and say we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and we're going to go for 90 wins and we're going to go up to the CBT and blah, and then you don't do squat, and you got $50 million in your pocket. F you. I'm done with the Red Sox. You know, I'm going to watch them for obvious reasons because otherwise I won't be able to rail on them on here. But I'm fed up with this. They're not going to do anything. That's frustration. Rant over for now. Rant over for now. I'm over. Let's move on to the poll questions from last week. Damn Red Sox. Instead of you're ruining my summer, you're ruining my Christmas, jerks. All right, let's see. Let's get to the poll questions. Okay. Do you think the Patriots will beat Buffalo this week and clinch the AFC East division title? We had 60% yes and 40% no. Pretty evenly split, just about. Number 2, do you think Charlie McAvoy should try and come back from his broken jaw in the Bruins' upcoming road trip? Yes, they need him with 0. And no, why rush him back was 100%. Now, as Danny had mentioned earlier, he is back tonight. He made the trip, and he is in the lineup. And as soon as I'm off the air here, I'm definitely going to go watch whatever's left of the game, so I can see how he looks and wish him the best because I don't want to see him get hurt again. Last question we had: what do you want the Red Sox to get most at the MLB winter meetings this week? A true number 2 starter was 29%. A power bat was 71%. Second or third base help was 0. Other was 0. The bat would have been nice. Like I said, I wanted the pitching because when they had Pedro and Schilling, 1-2 punch, and I understand the lineup was way better too, but they play in Fenway Park. They always have these games. It doesn't matter if freaking Pedro pitches or freaking some Joe Schmo off the street. Every time there's a game, there could be a 9-8 game, and they'll score runs. So they got to get pitching. But nonetheless, let's move on to last week's predictions. Last week's predictions not good for me. Par for the course. Let's see. I said Alex Steves would get his first hat trick. Wrong. He did have a game where he got 2 goals, but he didn't get 3. I said the Bruins would lose to New Jersey. And I said they would lose to Winnipeg as well, and Swayman would get pulled. That game is tonight, so that is to be determined. So right now I'm half wrong. Probably soon to be completely wrong because if it's still only 1-0, then Swayman's not going to get pulled. I said the Celtics would beat the Lakers and lose to Toronto. So, wrong. I got it half right, half wrong. And the last one is I got Jordan Walsh 20 points in one of the games this week. Ding, ding, ding. He did have 22 points in the Washington game. And I believe we were on when that happened. So I got one right finally. Again, now we'll move on to this week's predictions. All right. Now this is a long shot, wacky, or whatever you want to call it. This is what Frank wants. The Patriots will sack Josh Allen 3 times this week. Lots of ruck Scooby Doo. The Patriots will hold Cook under 100 yards. Again, lots of luck. And the Bruins will lose 2 of their next 3 games. They have, like I mentioned, they have Winnipeg tonight. They have Minnesota coming up. And then they have, I think, Utah. So by the time we come back on, they will have played 3 games. And it's tough. Winnipeg's got a tough place to play. Minnesota's playing better. They're in the hunt. I think they're 3rd in their division. So it won't be easy. And you know what? I thought I had a Celtics one here. Maybe I didn't put it in here. I think the Celtics will win the next 2 games. They'll beat Milwaukee and Detroit. I'll go on a limb and say they'll beat Detroit again for the second time in a couple weeks. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Where am I? All right, that's it. I want to thank you all for joining. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the support. Thanks for the commentary and the voting in the polls and so forth. Make sure you catch us on YouTube, and we'll see you all here next week.